I want to start off this video by saying I have absolutely no hate towards Infinity Ward. Even though I absolutely despise their game design in their last two Modern Warfare titles, I don't think it's fair to just say that they are awful developers, they're not talented, like a lot of people on Twitter have been saying over the past few months. I personally just don't think that's fair to say, and it's definitely not okay to be, singling out specific developers who probably don't even have much say in how these games go. They're just doing their job, and honestly, they're good at it. It's just I don't like the job that they're doing. It's as simple as that. And most of the stuff I will discuss in this video probably has nothing to do with the individual Infinity Ward developers either, or even the studio as a whole. It's probably just the higher-ups, the higher executives, maybe even just people at Activision. But I want to talk about this regardless because I think this is some really crazy news that recently came out from a Bloomberg report, and even Charlieintel was able to corroborate some of the information that was there. And one of the pieces of information here says that Sledgehammer Games staff was frustrated with MW3's development because they had to run decisions by Infinity Ward's leadership, who took a while to respond to feedback and even stepped in to make their own changes. Now, this was crazy for me to hear because, of course, this isn't Infinity Ward's game. This is Sledgehammer's game. But when you really start to thinking about it, of course, Infinity Ward probably does have a sense of ownership over this game because it was built off of their engine. It is, of course, attached to the application that was made off of from Modern Warfare 2, which again is their game. And of course, they also made the campaign, or at least made a significant portion of the campaign. So it's not like out of this world to hear that Infinity Ward would have some ownership over it, but I just don't like the idea of them trying to take hold of certain decision-making choices within the multiplayer experience. Because, well, that's not their time to make the multiplayer. They made one last year. They did it. They did a lot of things that people didn't like. And now it's Sledgehammer's turn to make something. And the fact that they were stepping in and changing things just kind of sounds weird to me. And then Charlieintel comes out and says that they have heard that one of the things that Infinity Ward made Sledgehammer Games change within Modern Warfare 3 was actually removing a Pick 10 loadout system. And then instead we got the system that we currently have today, which of course, like I've said, I do enjoy the whole vest idea because it at least makes it more like Pick 10. It's not exactly Pick 10, but it's at least more like it. But it's crazy to me that Infinity Ward had enough pull over Sledgehammer to make them literally remove an entire gameplay feature that they wanted to have within this multiplayer experience. And when you really start to think about it, yes, okay, it makes sense because they want to make sure this game flows seamlessly with Modern Warfare 2 because of the whole carryover feature. I'm sure Infinity Ward was very happy about this carryover feature because it meant more people buying Modern Warfare 2 bundles. I, for one, only bought the Homelander bundle and the Season 6 Battle Pass because of that carryover feature. If that carryover feature was not going to happen, I would not have purchased both of those things. So I completely understand why Infinity Ward would want them to make sure this game is kind of seamlessly connected. But that doesn't mean they have to completely remove gameplay features. I think there definitely could be a way for them to compromise with a Pick 10 Gunsmith hybrid. And yes, you can argue the vests is already making that a Gunsmith Pick 10 hybrid, but I don't think it's as far as it should be. And there's definitely more changes they could have made. And the fact that Infinity Ward is able to just change that to me is just, again, kind of crazy. This is actually something I heard from a leaker months and months ago, and I kind of always assumed it was probably true. And yes, of course, this does confirm that it was true. Now we have more news about the development of Modern Warfare 3 here. It has nothing to do with Infinity Ward, though, at least not much to do with Infinity Ward. It's mainly Activision executives deciding certain things. And this is information, most of it's not new, honestly. Most of it's stuff I kind of already knew, but this is just confirmation of it. So Modern Warfare 3 reportedly was only made in 16 months, which that is shorter than Black Ops Cold War, making this the least developed Call of Duty of all time, which makes sense why it's reusing so many assets from Modern Warfare 2. And I felt this from the beginning. When I heard that Sledgehammer was going to be making a game in 2023 after just making Vanguard in 2021, I said, yeah, right, okay, that's not going to be much of a game then. It's going to be very jumbled together, very messed up. And I said from the beginning, like, okay, Cold War was made in 18 months, right? At least for the most part. I guess you could say it was probably had a little bit of work even before that, but in general, it was only really fully developed for 18 months. And now we have this. So I was thinking to myself, as long as the gameplay design is good and there's good ideas there, I'm going to be okay with it. And I think they can definitely put together a decent mode. And that's exactly what happened. I think the multiplayer of Modern Warfare 3 is fantastic. It's not amazing, but it's pretty good. It's pretty solid. It's way better than Modern Warfare 2 was, even though Modern Warfare 2 was made in 3 years. So that goes to show that it's not really about the development time as long as you have good gameplay design, good gameplay philosophies intact. But of course, it can cause a lot of issues mainly in terms of the campaign. If the campaign was made under 16 months, then yes, of course, it's going to be rushed. It's going to be, just kind of cheap. And that's exactly what the campaign experience was for me. I really did not enjoy Modern Warfare 3's campaign. And then even going on further with the co-op mode, although this mode essentially is what Treyarch was working on, or at least most likely what they were working on for COD 2024, but kind of just pushed up as like an early access version of it essentially for this game. I do think if this never happened and actually, they were given significant time to actually work on this game, let's say 3 years, I think Sledgehammer would have been able to have enough time to actually separate part of the core studio there to actually work on a zombies mode. And I'm sure they would have wanted to. If Activision told them make a zombies mode, I think Sledgehammer would have had enough time to actually make a zombies mode. But since they only had 16 months for this, they had to get working on that multiplayer, which is why this game is such a collaborative effort between Infinity Ward, Treyarch, and Sledgehammer, and I guess even Raven when you talk about Warzone as well and what that's going to have to do once we get the Warzone updates next month. So yeah, very different than a usual Call of Duty title that has its full development time. And I feel like this is stuff we kind of expected all the way back when it was originally planned as DLC, which this article also does confirm that yes, it was originally planned as an expansion, but was quickly turned into a full premium title, likely just because they realized they can probably get more money out of that. And this next piece of news pisses me off. So apparently Sledgehammer Games' team initially pitched their next Call of Duty title to be set in the Advanced Warfare world after they finished Vanguard, but Activision told them they were working on a new Modern Warfare for 2023 instead. This drives me nuts because yes, I've heard even more information about Sledgehammer and how much they want to make another Advanced Warfare game. Apparently, they wanted to do that all the way back, probably 2 other times. I think it was before World War II released. They wanted to make an Advanced Warfare 2 directly after Advanced Warfare, but of course with the whole Infinite Warfare Black Ops 3 thing, people were getting sick of advanced movement. We needed to go back to boots on the ground, World War II era. So that's what they did. And then with Vanguard, that's what they wanted. They did not want to do Vanguard. They wanted to do Advanced Warfare 2. And then they had to do Vanguard. And then after Vanguard, what did they want to do? They wanted to do Advanced Warfare 2. And what were they forced to do? Modern Warfare 3. It's like Sledgehammer just can't get a break. And it's no surprise to me that so many developers from Sledgehammer have constantly been leaving the studio. We keep seeing it all over the place. Developers are leaving. And that's even happening in the other studios because they're probably just getting fed up with the fact that they're not able to do what they want to do. And instead they are forced to just do whatever Activision thinks will make them more money. And then after all this, when they finally got to actually start working on Modern Warfare 3, apparently the story was initially supposed to be a smaller scale Modern Warfare story set in Mexico. But in summer of last year, Activision executives rebooted the entire story to be a direct sequel to Modern Warfare 2. That is insane to me because obviously the game being made in 16 months is already pretty crazy. But you're telling me that summer of last year, that's when they decided, oh, actually, let's stop this development on this campaign that we're working on. Let's actually just do a straight up sequel to Modern Warfare 2 and just actually be what the sequel was meant to be. Why? Why would that be? I don't even think Infinity Ward would want this because it makes no sense. You're going to rush the sequel to Modern Warfare 2, which is supposed to be Modern Warfare 3. If you compare it to the OG Modern Warfare 3, this big, large-scale game with war going on, it's literally World War 3. That's the whole point of the original Modern Warfare 3. And this game just ends up being what it is. And like I said, I've complained about it more than enough at this point. But it would have made so much more sense for a game that did not have a lot of development time to be a smaller scale spin-off Modern Warfare story. And apparently, like I said, it was going to be set in Mexico. That would have been great. We had so much story in Mexico in Modern Warfare 2. They could have focused on that. They could have had Alejandro back. They could have had the whole story with Valeria. I can't even say her name. And that would have been so much more interesting for this game because it would have been known as a spin-off story. It would have been marketed as a spin-off story. It would not have been Modern Warfare 3. Maybe it would have been like Modern Warfare. I don't know. You could have put some subtitle there that would have worked. Modern Warfare Mexico. I don't know. They could have figured something out. And it could have had some sort of just separate spin-off that's more character driven. It doesn't have to be large. And our expectations are automatically going to be smaller. And we're just going to hope for a good story with some good gameplay. And that would have been fine. But instead, they rush a sequel to Modern Warfare 2. And obviously that did not work out in their favor. There's a lot of things you can take away from this article. But I think one of the main takeaways I have is that Activision just really needs to stop getting so involved with what these studios want to do for their games. Activision needs to just let them make the game that they want to make. And yes, I'm even saying that for Infinity Ward. I'm even saying that for them. They need to stop getting involved. And I know I said many times I don't enjoy Infinity Ward's game design, But do I want them to stop making the games they want to make? No, of course. Just make whatever they want to make, as long as it is what they actually want to do, and it's what the developers are passionate about, and what they all really have a collaborative like love for. That's what we always felt like Call of Duty was, and I do think they still have passion for what they're making. I'm not going to sit here and act like they don't have passion at all. But at the end of the day, if Activision is forcing them to make games that they originally didn't want to make, then that wasn't their primary passion. As much as Sledgehammer clearly did put passion into this game, it is not the game that they wanted to make originally, therefore it is not their primary passion. Some of the best movies and TV shows and even video games are made by people who are really passionate about what they want to make, and they are able to make it without any studio interference. It's as simple as that. That is when the best stuff is made, and if you're not into that stuff, if you don't enjoy it, then just don't play it, don't watch it, whatever. You can still complain about it, you can still have criticism, and I'm completely open to criticizing the game design of these Call of Duty games. Of course, if I don't like it, I'm gonna talk about it, even if it's what the studios wanted to make. But we're seeing a lot of times that the studios are just not given the ability to actually do that. They're just taking away from it every chance they get, and that makes me just worried for the future so much more so. Now, I am very thankful for the whole Microsoft acquisition. Does that mean suddenly everything's going to change? No, not necessarily, but I'm really hopeful that Microsoft will at least have a different takeaway when it comes to how they handle these COD studios, and maybe they'll actually just let them make the games. Of course, you're still going to have things like skill-based matchmaking and all the $24 bundles that are going to annoy people, but I really hope they can at least just give these developers proper time on the games they're making. Don't crunch them, don't make them, work overtime and stuff like that. I thought we learned from prior Call of Duties, but apparently not. It's still happening, and it's ridiculous that it's still happening, especially after the whole Activision scandal stuff in 2021. Why is stuff like this still going on? I have no idea, but it is. And they also should just be able to make the things that they genuinely want to make. The different feels between all the different Call of Duty games is one of the most special things about Call of Duty. I know a lot of people argue about Call of Duty every year, and they say it's a problem, and that's one of the main issues with Call of Duty recently, but I personally disagree. I think having a completely new experience every year is actually a good thing, and it keeps the franchise fresh and interesting. But I feel like the last few titles, although yes, having different settings for some of them and different certain, aspects, I do think they are feeling too similar nowadays. I felt like ever since Modern Warfare 2019, every game has kind of had a lot of features that are almost identical. And yes, there's certain changes here and there, but there's way too many similarities, and there's way too many similar feels to the games. I don't think we need this seamless experience game to game. I want a different experience each time. I want to feel like, okay, this is a new experience, and they clearly put their own flavor and passion into it, which is another reason why I've always wanted the other studios to make their own zombies modes as well, and not just Treyarch to make it every year. I know a big reason we're at this point in the first place is because of stuff like the pandemic and the fact that a lot of prior Call of Duties were rushed. So they're at this point where the 3-year dev cycle between these 3 studios is not as easy as it used to be. And it's something that should be just fine. Like the games can be made in 3 years. That's how they've always been made. They've always been made in under 3 years. So they could keep doing that and just keep, cycling each year a new Call of Duty developer. And it's as simple as that. But the problem is that they keep having these issues where things are canceled halfway through development, or, obviously the pandemic messed up a lot of stuff as well. And they just really want to get out a game every year. So now they're stuck in a place where it's kind of hard for them to kind of keep up with things. And at this point, now it should be fine because Treyarch is going to be making this game for next year. And then if Infinity Ward makes the game in 2025, then of course that would be 3 years after. But we have heard some rumors that essentially Infinity Ward's actually going to be making the game in 2026, which leaves 2025 for what studio? I mean, hopefully not Sledgehammer, because if that's Sledgehammer making that game, what are they going to do? They're going to have to make another Call of Duty in under 16 months, essentially. Like that's insanity, and that should not be the case. Hopefully Raven Software make the game that year, or another studio, or just don't release a game that year. I honestly wouldn't care that much if they didn't release a game just for 1 year. Just skip a year. Make sure that, you develop the shit out of COD 2024, adds a lot of DLC, Season 2 content, and then just go from there. And then you are now back in a 3-year dev cycle, and we shouldn't have these issues anymore. But the only reason we wouldn't have these issues anymore is if they weren't canceling things halfway through development. Let the studios do what they want to do. When they come up with an idea, they should go for it right away. If they want to make Advanced Warfare 2 for the next Call of Duty, let them do it. That should be COD 2027. That should be the next Call of Duty, which leaves them 4 years to make that game. 4 damn years to make COD 2027, which could be Advanced Warfare 2, and I think Sledgehammer would knock that shit out of the park. It would probably be one of the best Call of Duties of all time. They could make a campaign, a multiplayer, and a zombies all on their own because they have 4 years to do it. That would be wonderful. but you know what's probably going to end up happening. They're probably going to be forced to make an expansion game for Black Ops 2024 in 2025, just like what happened with this. And let's just hope that's not the case. And like I've said many times before, I do really love having a new Call of Duty experience every single year. But the thing is, if they can skip 1 year and just fix this whole development cycle problem, then yes, do it. Go for it. Maybe they can release something else that year. I don't know. Whatever it may be. Maybe choose that time to release a remaster. We've been waiting for a remaster of a game like maybe World at War or something. They can release the campaign and the multiplayer of World at War remastered. That would be awesome, and it probably would take a lot less time than obviously doing, you know, a whole new separate game with a new campaign, a new zombies, all that stuff. Just release a remaster of an OG Call of Duty instead of doing what they're doing with this, where they throw in the maps from it and then try to, you know, call it a new game. I don't know, all that confusing stuff. Just do a remaster for a year and we'll be fine with that. And year 2 content for Black Ops 2024, and we'd be happy. I think that'd be easier on the developers. Maybe they wouldn't have as much stress to actually create something, you know, relatively new. So I would absolutely love that, but I guess we have to wait and see. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below of this news. Like I said before, I don't want this to turn into, you know, hate towards individual developers, but in general, there's definitely some stuff going on within these studios that I think needs to be changed for the future of Call of Duty. Let me know your guys' thoughts. I'll see you on my next one. Peace out.